Want to make your brand impossible to ignore? Today, we're going to be talking about group psychology, social engineering, and how it ties into marketing so that you can get people addicted to your brand and going out and doing your selling for you. Lily, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I am glad to have you here. This one's going to be fun, and also I mentioned this before we started recording. We're going to be talking about stuff that marketers don't typically talk about out loud.
Yeah.
Trigger warning, it might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about the stuff we're going to be talking about today, but I feel like I spent so much of my life fighting against human nature, fighting against people's desire to just follow the group. And then at some point in my career, I was like, you know what? Stop fighting against it. Just work with it. It is the way that people are. Doesn't make me happy that people are this way, but this is the way that people are. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. And we're going to start off talking about why people identify with groups and why people will sacrifice their own personal identity, their own individualism in order to go along with the group. Now, you're a little bit younger than me, but it seems like this is timeless. It seems like every generation has these different subcultures. We break off into these different groups, and we like to think that we're individuals, but we tend to adopt a group identity. And from your observation, why do you think it is that people do this?
I think it takes us back to our hunter and gatherer days. I mean, people hung out in big groups for safety, for survival. If I go alone, I'm going to get attacked by a lion. So I'd much rather hang out with my crew.
Absolutely. Also, I think now I'm getting old. I'm almost at the point where if the tribe leaves me,
right,
I'm going to wither up and die all by myself. I don't want to do that. So now I'm more inclined to be like, shoot, maybe the tribe does matter. When I was younger, I was like, the tribe. I don't care about the tribe.
Yeah.
Those people are all idiots. Now I'm like, oh, I need somebody to go pick some berries for me. So another thing, fear of being left behind.
Definitely.
Fear of being eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, not having your crew there to back you up. Another thing, though, that I think is important in this conversation is we look to what other people are doing to let us know whether something is safe or not.
Yeah.
Maybe we've got an idea. I'd really love to cross that bridge, get to the other side of the valley and snag those awesome apples that are on that tree over there. But that bridge looks kind of shaky. Maybe somebody else from the tribe, maybe a couple of people can cross it before I'm willing to do that.
That makes sense. And it almost reminds me where we live, there will be like 10 cars lining up in the left lane and one lonely car in the right-hand lane. And everybody is just, they're not thinking for themselves. They're just mindlessly following the car in front of them, looking to the next person for safety, I guess.
You know what? And this is horrible. I hate to even admit this on air. I have found myself sometimes completely ignoring the traffic lights and just doing what the driver next to me is doing.
Right.
And they start to go and I start to go, not realizing that they've got an arrow turning signal.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I need to hit the brakes real quick because I was taking my cues from the people around me.
Seen it happen.
Rather than actually paying attention and doing the job of guiding myself through traffic. So traffic is a great example.
Yeah.
We tend to do what everybody else around us is doing. And I think there's safety in numbers, and there's this thing. The nail that sticks out is the first one to get hammered. So you don't want to stick out unless you want to get hammered.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why it makes sense for most people to go with the crowd. And so covering that, I kind of want to move into some real world examples.
Yeah. You said safety in numbers, and it made me think restaurant reviews. Like we go to Yelp if we've never tried a restaurant before. We'll go base our experience off of somebody, complete stranger's opinion. And it's kind of funny when you think about it.
Right. And here's a weird thing. As a copywriter, I can have the most persuasive sales copy in the world, and it's not going to do as good a job convincing people as testimonials or reviews are going to do. And even for me, when I go to buy something on Amazon,
Right.
I rarely read the product description. The first thing I do is I jump to the reviews and I look at what other people are saying, because I trust what the crowd is saying more than the person trying to lead the crowd is saying.
Makes sense to me. Like you said, safety in numbers. If everybody over here is loving it and raving about it, why wouldn't I?
Let's talk about the need to conform to the group, because I am not very good at it. I'm wearing a nice dress shirt, but I also have face tattoos, and I never found like the group that I could fit in with well.
Right.
But when I was a teenager, I fluctuated between like, am I a skater or am I a gangster? And so I like went back and forth, and sometimes depending on the friend group that I was hanging out with, I did find myself, as much as an individualist as I want to claim that I am, I would dress like my friends. I would want to signal to them, hey, I'm just like you. And so I wonder, in your opinion, think about some groups that are out there and then the ways that they signal to the other people in the group, hey, I'm just like you.
It makes me think of like Republican versus Democrat. Like Republicans all red, Democrat versus all blue. I want something that screams out, here's exactly what I represent. This is who I am. And I want to attract like-minded people.
I think of like the MAGA hats.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of wearing the MAGA hat other than to signify, hey, I'm like you? It's like a wink and a nod. Or to like really piss people off too, maybe.
Totally.
Bumper stickers is another one. People love to put their values and their villains on their bumper stickers.
For sure.
So that when you're in traffic, again, a lot of this goes back to traffic. When you're in traffic, you can tell everybody around you, hey, this is who I am. This is my clique. This is my group. It's kind of like gang mentality almost.
Yeah. It pushes away the people who I don't want in my crew, who don't like and represent what I like and represent.
So we go out of our way to let people know, hey, this is the group that we're part of. But we also, a secondary side effect of this, talking about politics, this is not a politics channel, but it's undeniable that that tribalism is a huge part of politics.
Sure.
People will go against their own self-interest, their own values to stay in line with the group. I noticed this in politics very young. When their side does it, it's the worst thing ever.
Right.
But when my side does it, it's not that big of a deal. When your politician does it, we need to impeach. When my politician does it, they're just doing their job. You need to understand the stresses of being the president. It's difficult and there's nuance. But there's only nuance when my guy does it. There's no nuance when your guy does it.
Yep. It makes me think of sports automatically. I'm thinking Raiders versus Broncos, when the ref makes a bad call or your team gets a pass interference. When it happens to your team, you're like, the ref made a bad call. And when it's the other team, or when it happens to your team, you're like, what the heck? It was just a pass interference. And when it happens to the other team, your ref, you're like, what the heck? That was a terrible call.
That's pass interference. What are you doing, ref? Yeah, exactly. So the group identity, it's a huge thing. And there are some examples of brands that do a really good job of creating group identity. I think of Apple. Both me and you are Apple fanboys. You're not a fanboy. What is there such thing as
a little fangirl?
Okay, there you
right?
go. We both, all of our stuff is Apple. MacBook, iPad, iPhone. If Android comes out with something, a new feature that Apple doesn't have yet, and even if it takes a year and a half for Apple to get that feature, I'm not going to break down and go buy an Android.
I'm waiting.
Exactly. So even if it goes against my own self-interest, I'll stay true to the identity. And I find myself questioning sometimes, like, why is that consistency to my identity so important to me?
Yeah. They don't want to avoid losing status in the crew.
Oh, yeah?
I would be worried if I go and buy and stock up on Android products that when I come and hang out with my Apple crew and come hang out with Nate, he's going to be like, what the heck? You switched up on us. I thought you were an artist, all for creativity. And
okay. And I will, in our defense, we have to do a lot of file sharing back and forth. And without Apple AirDrop, it would be impossible for us to get as much work as fast as we can.
I love AirDrop.
Yeah. So until Samsung or one of the other Android companies comes up with a way to share quickly between Apple, I'm kind of locked in to Apple. Supreme was a brand that you were talking about.
Yes, they literally have a tagline. It's not culture, it's clothing. I mean, yeah, and
Vice versa.
Wait, it's not clothing, it's culture. Gosh, I keep doing this.
It's all good.
Today's a reverse day.
Yeah, okay.
Switch it up.
So Supreme, it's not clothing, it's culture.
Yeah, they're the king of like limited drops. So they'll time their drops. It'll be at a certain time. And if you can get your hands on that exclusive gear or clothing, then you're a part of their club. You're officially a part of their crew.
Oh, and not only that, you're like the elite. You're the inner circle of the Supreme crew.
Exactly.
So that's another thing too, is you can buy the brand and you can show the brand off and you can say, hey, this is who I am. But then they give you opportunities to say, actually, I'm part of the inner circle. I'm not just somebody who wears Supreme. I'm somebody who wears the limited drop Supreme. I'm not just somebody who has an iPhone. I've got the iPhone Pro. They give you opportunities to reinforce and up your status inside of the group. So that's freaking great.
I know, I like it. It's a little wink wink to the others who have the same values and same villains as you.
Yeah, I'm part of the group, but I'm also better than the rest of the group. It's pretty clear. Human beings like to belong to a tribe. We like to have our group, even if we want to be individuals. I think of like subcultures. We all break off into these, I'm an emo kid, I'm a gangster, I'm a skateboarder, I'm a preppy. Is preppy still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have these little groups that we break off. I'm not like everybody else, but I am like everybody else in this smaller subculture.
Right.
And then inside of that subculture, we're still struggling for status. We want to be like the top people in that subculture. Brands that give you the opportunity to do that make it amazing. So thinking about, if you're selling, having different ways to give exclusivity. You want to make sure that your brand has an identity, that by buying my stuff, you're expressing yourself to the world. But I've also got like different tiers. I've got everybody in the group can get access to this, but only certain people in the group get access to this. And only the top people, the early bird gets the worm, the fastest people, the most dedicated people, only they can get access to this inner circle stuff. I want to talk about, kind of transition over to how to get this effect inside of your marketing, inside of your branding. And one of the major shifts that's happened in the last like 10 years is influencer marketing. And you do an amazing job creating content, establishing yourself as somebody to pay attention to inside of the marketing world. You're constantly putting out content. Influencers, though, who are the influencers that you pay attention to when it comes to the things, the brands, the identity stuff that you really identify with?
Some of my favorite influencers would be the Hormozis. I love Layla and Alex Hormozi. Who else? I'm trying to think. I like the real Kristen Mark and the real Brian Mark. Those are all kind of fitness, business-oriented influencers. I think they do a really good job of building that know, like, and trust factor. Mm-hmm. And also, kind of throwing it back to our second episode together where we're talking about personal posts, they do a good job with those too.
Making themselves relatable to their audience.
Yeah, making themselves relatable. I feel like their friend, and I know they've got hundreds of thousands of followers, but we're friends, right?
Yeah, so this is something that, with the rise of social media, this is like a new thing that's come into marketing. It's not new anymore, but which is influencer marketing. Yeah. Finding those people that have influence over your ideal community, the people that you want to get in front of. Find the people who are already in front of them. Find the people who already have their attention, and then give them your message and be like, hey, get this message out to your people. It's great because what it does is, we were talking earlier about the elite people, the top people inside of the community.
Right.
When we see them do something, we say, oh, I want to be like them. It's safe. They did it. It's safe. They didn't get destroyed for it. So now it's safe for me to do it. They dress this. I think about like sometimes people wearing like outlandish clothes to award ceremonies. And you're like, nobody would ever wear that in public. But then as soon as somebody does, then people who like them are like, you know what? Those big, ugly red boots.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go. Everybody would have laughed at me last week, but now that I saw Celebrity X do it, maybe I'll go buy a pair of those big, ugly red boots as well.
She's a trendsetter.
Yeah, exactly. So getting those influencers, this is one of the things that drives me nuts. When I was poor and I didn't have money to buy things, I could never afford the things that I wanted. Now that I make a lot of money and I'm a marketer, people just send me free shit
Hell
all
yeah.
the time. They're like, hey, talk about this product. Hey, check this out. Hey, we want you to promote this. As an influencer, you get a lot of people that just send you free stuff and they say, do a video on this new microphone, do a video on this new camera, let
Right.
people know about it. And that works great. But there's also some cons, and we've worked with influencers, and there is one major con, and I want you to tell the people about the big drawback of influencer marketing.
They suck at marketing. They suck at selling. Half of the time, I feel like I don't even know where to go after watching their video or
Right.
what they want me buying.
They're good at selling themselves, but then they kind of get uncomfortable when it comes to selling something else. So they're
Yeah.
like, hey guys, check out this thing. It's pretty cool. Thanks to the sponsor. Thanks for hooking me up. All right, let's jump back into the video.
Right.
But like you said, where do I go to get one?
Yeah.
They don't do calls to action very strong. They don't know how to hit pain points. They don't know how to hit desired results. It's just, hey guys, big thank you to so-and-so for sending me Yeti, this new water bottle. I love it. All right, today we're going to be talking about...
Exactly.
So there's pros, there's cons of influencer marketing. They have influence over your tribe, but they don't have good, strong calls to action. Testimonials. We talked a little bit about reviews earlier.
Yeah.
Problems. Actually, let's first talk about testimonials, why they work. Give me your thoughts on it.
I want to know exactly who bought your product, what problem they were facing, how you solved it, and how it felt working together. That's exactly what I want to know before I spend any money on your product or service.
Mm-hmm. And the problem with testimonials, usually, the good thing about them is, oh, other people in my tribe have done this. It worked out for them. It's safe for me to try that strength in numbers.
Yeah,
that letting other
safety.
people, let other people cross the bridge first. If they make it across, it's safe for me to do it.
Right.
Testimonials are great at conveying that. But then you hit a couple of points. You're like me. This is what it was like for you. And this is how great it was once you got to the other side of the bridge. Most people don't know how to do concise testimonials like that. So when you ask for a testimonial, you'll get this long, winding thing that doesn't hit those points and doesn't have very much impact. So I found as a copywriter, a lot of times when I'm getting testimonials, first, before I even work with somebody, I say, hey, I'm going to need a testimonial after this so that I can, document how it was, how this worked for you. But then when I get the testimonial, those are the things that I ask. What was it that you were struggling with that made you want to reach out?
Right.
What was the experience like of solving this problem together? And then what does it feel like now that you're on the other side, safely on the other side of the bridge? And by kind of directing and saying, these are the three things that I need, then you'll get powerful testimonials. But if you just leave people to write their own testimonials, you'll get paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff that doesn't even matter. Last thing that I wanted to talk about, connecting through values and villains.
Yes.
This is so important. My buddy Landon Porter, he likes to say, people like us like us.
Ooh.
And so if you want people, when you talk about the no like trust factor,
Yeah.
if you want to get that like factor, if you're like me, if I'm watching your videos and I see things where I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I think. Oh, that's something that I have a value in common with them. Ooh, I hate that person too. That's something that
common enemy.
Exactly. Having those common shared values, those common shared villains makes a lot of sense. And with Real Growers, one of the companies that we both work together on, they are for homegrown cannabis people, homegrown gardeners. And one of their villains is Monsanto
Right.
and the evil pesticide companies. And by I've noticed the content that we do together for them, whenever they attack that villain, either big cannabis industry, the big players that are coming to wipe out the small growers,
Yep.
or the big evil nutrient companies that are poisoning the crops, whenever we do content attacking the villains, that content does great. And we see this like huge explosion in the comment section.
Oh,
And
yeah.
those are the things that, by saying, hey, we share these values and we share these villains, those are the things that really rally people and make our audience say, I want to be a real grower. I'm a real grower. I'm down with the cause. And just another example of, or at least what I like to think of, is creating the group identity and then having a leader, either an influencer or you, the person that's in charge of the brand,
Right.
have them say, hey, this is the value of the community. This is the product that we use. These are the clothing. This is the clothes that we wear. This is the type of car that we drive. And even if it goes against we were talking earlier about iPhones, even if buying a Samsung might be the smartest thing, because I'm hooked into the Apple ecosystem, I'm going to wait for it. So even if it goes against my own self-interest, if the group is doing it and the top person in the group, the top elite people in the group are also doing it, I'm probably going to go do it as well.
Definitely. And it also makes me think that the us versus them point of view is so important to position yourself as an ally and say, I'm here for you. We're friends. We're a team together.
Yep.
I think that really makes a big difference.
Yeah. And you know, the craziest thing about all of this is I'm a marketer and I know how all this stuff works. And I've like ingrained it in my brain how all of this stuff works, and I still fall for it. So
Gets the best of us.
there you go. Again, going back to the very beginning, instead of fighting against human nature, just learn to work with human nature.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is this week's episode. Real quick, I want to know in the comments, have you ever found yourself buying something just because it matched your identity, because it allowed you to express who you are and express which group you belong to? If you're somebody who is a diehard brand fanatic of one business or another, I want to know about it. Let us know in the comments what that business is, what that brand is. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending. We will catch you later.